Okay, so good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you may be. My name is Jimmy Adepeju, and I'd like to welcome you all to this interactive session, aptly named the Focus Nigeria. We have with us today Honorable Kehinde Sogunle, the Labour Party governorship candidate for Ogun State. I would like to especially thank you for honoring our invite. I know you, along with other people, you guys are very busy right now with the campaign. It's the last lap, and so we're very appreciative of you being able to make it. I think before we go on, to your benefit, Honorable Sogunle, I would like to quickly introduce this group so you know who we are. And I would also give you a brief moment to introduce yourself as well, beyond what we already know. And after that, we shall get into the main agenda of the question and answers for the day. So who are we? We are the Nigerians for Progressive Reforms, mostly resident in America, although we don't have location restrictions. We do have members in Europe and Nigeria, as far as I know. And so we spend our time just discussing the Nigerian matters, and we mainly debate. And every member is free to actually chip in their opinion without fear of attack or discrimination. And it's our hope that someday we'll get to the point that we'll be able to engage with any governments of the day in Nigeria to chip in with our quota in policy making and implementation and whatever else we can do to help the country move forward. But in order to keep the time, I'm going to keep it like that for now. So if you do not have any question, I think I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Otherwise, if you have a question, please ask now. So over to you, Honorable Sogunle. Hello?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure joining you this afternoon over there, but evening here. I hope you will not mind me. I'm just coming back from a town hall meeting at Arepo, so I'm on the road. But I just think I should make the time since I've made the commitments. My name is Kehinde Anthony Sogunle. Chartered accountant, management consultant, entrepreneur, youth motivator, quite a lot of things to so many people. And I'm going for the gubernatorial seat in Ogun State. I've had some experience in the private sector, and then I joined Ogun State as a chartered accountant and management consultant. But I joined Ogun State government in 2003 as a Director General of Management and Budget, and it's a second term as Commissioner of Finance in Ogun State. Since that time, that was in the government of Otumba Gbenga Daniel. Prior to that time and since that time, I've been so much and deeply interested in the progress and development of our entire state. And while I was in government, as Director of Budget and Management, which includes planning and the Commissioner of Finance, I was involved in the economic and the regional development of the state. I was part of the team that drafted the manifesto and also connected it to the programs of government. And occupying that position also allowed me to be able to see across all the ministries and agencies of government. I worked in more than 28 committees in that tenure. Virtually everything that was being done in the government was involved finance, so I had to be there. And then so I can see the opportunities and challenges that were that are still there. The major driver for this, two major drivers of what I'm trying to do. One is the fact that I was so privy to the regional development plan, the 25-year development plan that we did in 2006, which is almost expiring now. But we're only able to implement it up to 2011. And the normal challenge of government continuity came in. The succeeding government didn't touch it at all. But I saw that regional plan as a development blueprint for state, which was not being followed. And I was quite keen to make sure that they followed it. Tried to advise the succeeding government, but it couldn't. One way or the other. Everybody wants to do his own during their tenure. Even the last, particularly this current government was one that tried to work it as much. I've written quite a lot of proposals to them about how to drive the economy, to improve the revenue generation, to improve planning, skills acquisition, and things like that. But incidentally, we have a different perspective around government, which is not development, but more politics. The second inspiration are the youths of this country, particularly immediately after 2020 census. A lot of them got frustrated and they felt that there was no future for them in the country and there was no input for them, no opportunity for them to participate in changing things towards bettering the life of people, particularly the youth that are seemingly getting frustrated with things are. And I think I started from a discussion with them, not a discussion, they invited me to a lecture and I told them the configuration of the polity and the challenges that they might face. It was in one of those discussions that they said, look, I think and also the fact that most of our young people, even when they are very desirous of change, are not capable of creating that change. So, and from their interaction, some of them, only subsequent interaction after that, they were saying, who can lead us, who can transit us? And then somebody just pointedly said the question, can you not? I prayed about it and somewhere last year, and they got a call, not a call from people, that a spiritual call to proceed. Yeah, saying, here I am, Lord. And so here we are, we've gotten the ticket of the Labour Party, done the primaries, got the ticket. There's still challenges for someone getting the ticket to speak. But we're still keen that whichever way we will contribute one way or the other, and that through the governance or through participating actively in politics. So,
fantastic.
So for me, it's that the task of nobody will come here to build our country for us. Some of those have made the choice to stay here and make it work, whichever way. And but we believe that connecting with people, particularly in the diaspora, is very key. A critical element of what we're trying to do is what we call the greater Ogun agenda linkage, which is
Hold on one second. I don't want you to get into, because we're still going to ask you questions, so I don't want you to answer those questions.
Let me just give the key part so that the one that connects, that makes me to be committed to what we are doing today, and then to just make it the point of view to come. It's the greater that linkage. But a lot of us over there we try to improve policies, complain, give advice, but who is listening? And we believe that as a government, we should create that bridge between what's happening there and what do people think can happen here. And I think that goal, call it goal, will be a good vehicle for us to interact. I will expect that after this interaction, we will have a deeper engagement. Apart from just the interaction, we can connect and share perspectives. We can connect our databases so that we can see how we can all, wherever we are, contribute to the development of our states. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really cherish it. And thank you.
Thank you so much. And apologies for interrupting you there, because I just don't want you to get into the whole thing before we started asking the questions. So you do have a very impressive background, I must say that. So from everything you've said now, I can tell that you actually prepared very well for this. I think you did your homework very well, and we do wish you all the best. The key thing I must add now is we're not affiliated as a group. We're not affiliated with any party, okay, as a group. But as individuals, everybody is free to back any candidates or parties they choose. So that's the main thing here. So that's the reason why we're able to bring people from different parties and then have discussions, because the main goal for us is to be what you just said now. We would like the opportunity as well to engage with the governments of the day in Nigeria to see how we can help to move the country forward. Because, I mean, the status quo cannot be maintained. We cannot actually just keep what we have today. So we're looking for opportunities to see how from the diaspora we can all just contribute our ideas and help the country. So now, thank you once again for that intro. That's fantastic. And I'm sure everyone here agrees with me. So the next thing now is we're going to get into question and answers. And what the format is, I just throw the floor open to members, so to everyone in attendance, to ask you precisely related, any questions related to your, could you mute yourself if you're not speaking? All right, I'm gonna start muting people here. I'm sorry if I'm muting you, please. It's disturbing me. And I'm sure it's disturbing everyone else too. Okay, so question and answers, and I think I can kick that off actually myself, right? Or does someone else want to kick it off? Question? So let's do this. If you want to ask a question, please raise up your hand. There's an icon for raising of hand. So I can acknowledge, and then once I call your name, you can go ahead and ask a question. If you feel more comfortable, you don't want to maybe let your voice be recorded on the session, you can type your question out in the chat and we'll read it out to our guest. So the floor is open now. Who wants to go ahead with the first question? Okay, let me kick it off. So, Honorable Sogunle, the first question, the question I have here is regarding what is going on with the currency change policy. I would like to hear from your perspective, running for governorship. I mean, when you do become governor, okay, how do you think what is going on right now is likely to impact you being governor, your policy, your intended policy? Because I mean, you've talked about a lot of things about what you plan to do when you do become governor. So how do you think this particular issue we have today, right now, regarding the monetary change, the currency change, is going to impact your ability to deliver to the people of Ogun State? Hello? Oh, I think you're having a network problem.
No, it's muted.
Is muted?
Yeah.
You need to unmute Honorable Sogunle.
The currency change is not there's a general policy.
Sorry, you have to start all over. You have to start all over. We couldn't hear you before. I think you were muted. So please start all over, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Honorable Sogunle.
During this electoral period, that menace that we all be complaining about, which is vote buying. And a lot of people, we've had that a lot of people have stocked a lot of naira, and people's political decisions are going to be largely influenced by vote buying. And I think coming at this time, it can be seen to be able to address that. But that's as an intervention now. But the whole era, we can also connect it to the larger policy of the CBN, around monetary policy of the CBN, around.
Yeah, I do think it keeps on muting himself. It might be the network. Let me see. Okay. Honorable Sogunle, you're muted.
It's now forcing people into that kind of economy. For governance, a lot of, I know from experience that a lot of corruption has been forced by cash movements. Most of the expenditure of most of governments, particularly on the current expenditure, actually done on cash basis. You not believe it for most events, and that has created a lot of avenue for corruption, diversion, and quite a lot of that. I used to ask people when I was in government that, why is it that when anybody gets to government, people always think that there will be some form of corruption or misappropriation? And one of those things that has facilitated is the fact that some transactions have been done through cash. And I think this currency change will address that. Apart from the vote buying, it will also allow for a greater degree of transparency and accountability and asset tracking. Because at the end of the day, once we begin to pay contractors, whether petty or substantial contractors, through digital means, you begin to see how the money is flowing, how money laundering can be addressed, and a host of things like that. So I see it as a general accountant and somebody who's been so keen around transparency and accountability and the reduction of corruption. For me, it's a welcome development, but the implementation has been quite wonky. A time frame, and the fact that well before this is introduced, you should have publicity and awareness around e-money a lot more than they're doing now, because maybe all mechanisms are all entirely available make that happen. What CBN is just doing, and I just got information even yesterday that they are now pushing, looking for agencies, money awareness. Not the issue is not about just that a lot of our populace have not adjusted to using e-money transactions. I've not usually checked in the past 5 or 6 years, and I don't even deal with cash that much. So, but for a lot of our people who have not converted, this may be a constraint now. But I know it is something that can be addressed quite quickly. It's just unfortunate that it's happening at a time when everybody is so sensitive around cash. A lot of our people are complaining. But I know it's a good idea for government, for me, it's good. Thing that said to address those challenges and start.
Okay. So now, how do you think this is likely to affect your policies? I mean, do you think that, especially considering that at this time, they ought to have completed the currency swap? They ought to have taken all the old notes, and we ought to only be dealing with new notes now. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and they've extended it today. I don't know, maybe they're going to extend again. So if you become governor, when you get into office, how likely is this to affect? Because we do hear about protests all over the place now. People are very angry because they can't access their money. Of course, and if you can, I know some people in Nigeria that if they cannot access their money in a day, they're not going to be able to feed. So how are you going to address this with people of Ogun State? Because the protest I heard about for last week actually was in Ogun State. I don't know if anything else happened elsewhere, but I know one happened in Ogun State. So should you come into office now and the people are very angry, they still want to protest and they want to, God forbid, bring down the government? How are you going to address this?
Some of these protests that you have seen can actually be simulated. This is that period of politics. And what we see that people usually two things. One is the fact that there could be a lot of sabotage. A lot of sabotage have been suspected by the banks. A lot of them are stacking the currency that is available, and they are probably Nigerians will always look for a way to sabotage any policy. So there's the opportunity and the possibility of sabotage there. The other part is also the fact that politicians can exploit that the environment or the scenario to also create some confusion, and I think that's what it was done. But I think it's like if you see that it's isolated in Ogun State, it could have been still simulated by politicians. But either as it may, they're just catching on the challenges that we have at present, which I think would be addressed as soon as possible. For every change, there are some pains that has to come with it. And I think that it's just that it's happening everything's happening at the same time. Currency change, there is fuel shortage, election is coming up, and everybody is tense. So it can generally, even for government, for my government, let me look at that aspect. When we're in the first round in government, we try to do quite a lot of things around electronic money or electronic transfer, direct transfer, and a lot of things like that. So salaries are not they are paid.
Okay, so while we're waiting for him,
we built up a government workers to connected as much as possible. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We lost you in a brief moment, but we can hear you.
We've just, our people need to be gradually migrated into a digital economy. The constraints may be there at the initial stages, but when you begin to enforce, particularly when you look at the advantages around transparency and accountability and the reduction of corruption, everybody talks about corruption being the first major issue that we have to face as a country. And so those constraints may be there, people may exploit it, but if you persist in making sure that that happens and you can cushion the effects of all of that, you see that over time people get used to it. Current exchange, we've been running. The CBN have been trying to run a largely cash And so the best thing to really look into it is this time, just that it may be happening at the wrong time. And like I said,
Okay. All right.
largely, like one critical aspect of what we want to do as part of our programs is digital transformation. And just to make sure that, so it's something that we just need to make sure that we intervene at the right time, that the system, particularly the financial system, supports that, and the people are aware that some of these things can happen. But I'm an advocate of what is happening now. It's just that it may be unpopular, but once you create the good alternatives for people to work with, then your policies can go.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. So one observation I've made is the fact that sometimes even when you have the government in Nigeria, when they have good policy, implementation always goes wrong because they just don't have a good management of projects. But I have someone raising their hand, so I'm going to call on Mr. Adedapo Juade. Before, I also have a question in the chat window, but I'm going to call on Mr. Adedapo first, then I'll read out the question from the chat. So Mr. Adedapo, please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask a question. You can bring your hand down now.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Mr. Sogunle, my question is in threefold. So one is on infrastructures. When you look in the last 3.5 years in Ogun State, the former administration, which is the administration of Senator Gubernatorial, embarks on some road projects. And this present administration is either they do it in halfway or one lane completed. I want to know what will you be doing regarding those projects? Because when you go to some of those projects now, I think some of them are started decaying or having one fault or the other. Secondly is on education. Most of our public schools in Ogun State, what we usually see is changing, painting, and giving it a roof color. But the infrastructures needed in those classrooms are not there. What will you be doing in that regard? And also on model schools, we have some of those model schools spread across Ogun State. Some are completed, not being used, while some are still in a skeleton body. What will you be doing to those projects? And lastly, I'll be talking on the cargo airports. Do you see it feasibly? Because I could remember during Otunba Gbenga Daniel's administration, almost all the Gateway Hotel, once the record were checked, it was discovered that those hotels could not even bring in an income that was used to build those projects. That was why it was concessioned out to private investors. Did you see Ogun State able to handle the cargo airport by the government or the private sector? Those are my questions. And lastly, sorry, I will have to ask this. On pension, gratitude, and all other stuff and monuments, what will your administration put in place to pay outrightly the gratitude of pensioners and up-to-date payment of pensions and civil servant emoluments? Thank you, sir. Those are my questions.
Okay, yeah, before you stand down, one quick question to Honorable Sogunle, please. Do you remember all three questions, or do you want him to summarize one more time? Honorable Sogunle.
I think I can remember.
Okay.
If anyone you can just tick on it. The first is on infrastructure and abandoned projects, so to speak. And I think one of the major. So permit me, I just got.
You're muted.
I'm so sorry. I just got to my again now. Okay. I think the first one on infrastructure, particularly abandoned projects. The one major bane of government particularly in this part of the world, is lack of continuity. A lot of our governors are concerned about their tenure, not really the development of whatever domain they're actually administering. And that's why you see quite a lot of abandoned projects, like you saw in the case of the government of Ibukunle and the country, and what the current government is doing. And and it's not just about the sense of responsibility and the sense of history and this is all about also the resources of the state, the deployment of the resources of the state, with an acute awareness of the fact that as someone that has been given the responsibility to manage the resources of the state, the efficient management of those resources is very, very important. And one should, as much as possible, recognize that government is a continuum. And that is one thing that I've seen that the past two governments have not really done. Everything is about their project. So what we need to do is to make sure that as much as possible, we make sure that those assets that have been acquired one way or the other are actually put to effective use, or that have been developed and been put to effective use. And I think that's just going to be my own focus. Make sure that some of those abandoned projects are completed, and make sure that you put them to effective use. The other thing around, I think that was also about education, those model schools. This particular administration, when they were coming in 2019, I was one of the people that advised them to convert these model schools to technology ops. They did only one, and I told them they can actually do 4, because so as to cover the major areas of the state. But even the only one they did is not being optimally used, and because they don't really understand. I can't really see that they understand the concept of ops and what it can do for economic development. We have the highest number of institutions there. We have 4 technology polytechnics, so to speak, and there will have been a connection between these tech polytechnics and the hubs. Now they can then reach that to the outer market, both local and international market. But it appears our people are more concerned about optics and cosmetics than the real essence of what they have to do. The other one also is about education, also the optics dimension. And a lot of people think that the public likes optics. So that's why you see the emphasis on classrooms, painting of classrooms, and changing of rules as development. Education is deeper than classes, particularly in this digital age. What of the quality of the curriculum, what of the quality of the teachers, what of the opportunities for students, and more really functional education. And you begin to see when people concentrate on roads, buildings, classrooms, and all of that, without looking at the functionality of whatever they're trying to build, then you begin to see that people are not getting the essence of government. And the sustainable development goals have actually identified goals in very, very, particularly literacy, education, and a lot of things like that. A lot of people, it took a long time, because I told you, we have not even been able to convince, and that's one of the things that actually picked some of us to say, let's get into the saga, to even convince the government about utilizing the SDGs as their performance metrics, so to speak, and to use it to drive the development agenda. Everybody just thinks around what they think the people like, or not what is essential for development. And so this is what influences quite a lot of things that people are doing. People try to do more politics than governance. Well, after elections, for me, politics is ended. What is remaining is governance. And I think a lot of people are not prepared, particularly some of our past people, or even the current ones, are not prepared for the business of government. They think about just get a ticket and use everything to like bamboozle the people to support you. Or after that, you now begin to dance to political tools rather than the governance, which talks about the life of the people, the economics of the people, and the quality of life of the people, which which they may not have even specified measures for, and so they don't know what to do, what you can measure, you cannot just manage. The other thing is also about capability to understand development dimensions that we have as people. So a lot of some capacity can be in government, but you don't see enough visionary capability
in politicians and even civil servants themselves. So you see a whole lot of challenges that has caused what I call retarded development, particularly for our states. Some states are doing quite better, but we are not doing that well at all. The rate and scale of development that we should have had, given the advantages that we have in terms of land, in terms of people, in terms of proximity to major areas, are not being harnessed as effectively as you want them. The other one is also about which is the last one, is the one around pension gratuities and things like that. It's been a major topical issue in Ogun State. Ogun State has been a very important state, and quite a lot of people have. The economy has been largely driven by civil servants, and you just see that they're quite sensitive to the issue of pension and gratuity. And a scheme was put in place which was not completely implemented, and so that has created a lot of backlog. As we are talking about, say a backlog of gratuities and the irregular payment of pensions. And so you see a very unhappy populace, because and people feel that the government may be uncaring. What we're saying is that, and a lot of things, what actually happened, when you look at the profile, the income profile of the state have been used, you realize that pensions have been,
Honorable Sogunle, please try to round up on here because we have questions coming in, please.
Okay, let me just on the person, what we see is that a new scheme was put in that could have sustainably provided for pensions and gratuities, but it was not completely implemented. And so you cannot even then expect people to be able to meet the liabilities of pensions and from current earnings, which is not even adequate to address the current recurring and capital expenditure. So there needs to be a plan to ensure that you can attract some kind of funding to address the backlog of pension and gratuities that you have. And some of these things are things that we think we can do some financial engineering about. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for giving a very insightful response to that. So I have a very powerful question here. So I'm going to use my discretion and move it to the back of the line, because I think you may need more time to actually answer this. So what I'm going to do now, I'll call on Mr. Olawale Lokoyi. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, sir. So you can go ahead and ask your question. So let's try to keep up questions, please, short and simple. In the interest of time, we have like 25 minutes to go. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dekweju. Thank you so much, Mr. Sogunle, for coming to this program. We really appreciate your effort. So I'm very glad to hear that you said that after election, you are interested in governance of the people. And we found that this has not ever been the case over the years. The Nigerian people, they are very disenfranchised, People are suffering all over the place. And the government just do their own, like status quo, they go back to whatever they're doing, and they forget the people. That is why all the people all over the place are very angry, because the government doesn't take the people into consideration when they do their own policy. Take, for example, the current CBN issues about changing the money. I don't think they consider the people before they start changing the policy. Otherwise, they will have done their own homework very well. I realized that even the people who are doing the promotion, not even the government. So it's like people think the government doesn't care about them. So now my question is, when you become the governor, what effort are you going to make sure when you're making any policy, you're going to make it that your policies are people-oriented? That's my question.
Yeah, Honorable Sogunle.
Yeah, thank you very much. People are going to be at the center of our governance. And communities, local governments are going to be very critical to what we do. We even during this particular process, what we have been, I'm just coming from a stakeholder meeting at Arepo and the states around there. And what we have just done is to see how can we work together to building that community into a livable community. There is this thing we call community development. And that is to make sure that communities begin to realize how they will connect whatever they have in those communities to the projects of government. We are sharing and we're sharing with people, particularly with our agenda, which is titled SHIELD. SHIELD is directed at people, not even politics. SHIELD is an acronym for addressing security, human capital development, infrastructure, economic development, leadership development, and digital transformation. Most of the other ones, most of the things I've mentioned, and all these areas affect people directly. Security, we all know, is a major issue, and we need to look at creative ways of addressing security, particularly using technology. A lot of the approaches we've been using have been combat, policing, and all of that. We need to do quite a lot of intelligence work in this particular area. And the core of our intelligence work is identity management, knowing our people, knowing the assets we have. And we believe we can use quite a lot of assets, a lot of information around that with a good identity management system that is not going to inconvenience the people. Because we are collecting identity information in NIN, in a BVN, in a passport, in driver's license, and all of that. We are going to utilize a lot of our youth to mine this data so that we can get the identity of anybody that is resident in Ogun State, so that we can be able to control the influx of people, and also control the activities of people. The other side of it is also asset identity. As I had to start talking about houses, and we need to GIS information, all of that, to know the assets that we have. We are thinking about using technology for connect to our data transformation. And with this mining app, we'll be able to then see what is happening. Our goal is to make sure that we have a security intelligence system that prompts us and provides a solution for us for areas where intervention is required. So that even one is prevents a lot of insecurity, and also detect security lapses. When we begin to show confidence in this area, people will know that you cannot solve the crime. The other part of that, the other areas that we need to talk in that shield is leadership development. We realize that the capacity to run government and also to maintain the business of government, maintain infrastructure is generally lacking. Right from now, we have created, particularly in the political party they were run, an academy of politics and governance, so that people begin to know how to play responsible politics, and how to transit politics to governance. Because you cannot run a church without going to Bible school. We see people going to politics today, and even governors today, without appropriate education and appropriate orientation. We believe that the only way we can build sustainable development and the succession generation is to build leaders. And we've also seen, which I did when I was in government, that most of the civil servants are adept at administration. Administration is different from management. Management is different from leadership. The highest place to go, some of the schools don't go to ASCON. But you only find out that they are always directed to, and they comply with instructions. Initiative, creativity, management itself, project management, managing people, managing resources are some weak points that most of our administrators have. And we did something there was called Management Development Program for civil servants, which happened to be quite interesting for them. So building the capacity of people in government, out of government, is going to, particularly for leadership, is becoming very, so that we can have a pipeline of leaders in all our sectors, particularly also in the local government areas. We found that even though the fact that we have experience in local government, you see that the people who are attracted to govern in local areas, particularly political appointees, are not Amish particular councillors, local government chairman. And if they are at this level of governance, that we have the best impact on people, we need to resource them with very, very good and competent people.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable. Yeah,
let me forgetting this is through the political party, so we need to do what we can do on capacity building in these areas before they get government. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So I do have another person wanting to ask questions. So Dr. Duro Jaye, you're next. Please go ahead. Keep it short and simple, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Sogunle, for honoring our invitation. And I want to commend your courage for stepping out to offer yourself for the services of Ogun State. I have twofold question. I know any program you want to execute, definitely funding is a major part of it. My first question is, how do you intend to fund your program? And regarding the IGR of Ogun State is a very special state in Nigeria in the sense that apart from Lagos and probably Rivers, Ogun State is next in income generation. The first question is, do you think Ogun State IGR is at the stage it should be now? And if no, what are your strategies for improving dramatically the IGR of Ogun State so that in your government, within a space of very short time, Ogun State will not be one of those states that will be going every month, camp in hand to Abuja? So 2 questions, is the IGR at the stage it should be? And second question, what if no, what are your strategies for increasing and improving the IGR of the state? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. They are all related, but there are 3 questions in 2. The first one is, how do you want to raise money to support your government? Then you're not looking at the level of IGR and what are the strategy for IGR. First thing is about, see, then and even now, I believe what we call economic independence for states, particularly for subnationals. This going to Abuja all the time ties us too much to federal inefficient structure that we cannot manage our future the way we want. While I was a commissioner of national, I was an advocate of this, making sure that we, particularly subnationals, have a lot of economy, and that will only happen if governments, particularly at the national level, have a clear idea of how they want to improve the economy of that state. So the first thing about funding is one, is to begin to look at, and I'm drawing on my experience and profile in this area. Funding is available to support development projects, but it is only when you know how to what our package is, how to source it, and then the credibility and the capacity of the person that's actually responsible. And in the area of credibility and capacity, to stand out very well there. I can say today in Nigeria, I'm one of the first 10 public financial managers because I've been in the past 20 years, I've been in public finance, and I've done, after leaving office, quite a lot of extensive consulting work in public financial management. So much so that one of my last assignments was as a coordinator, a quality coordinator for the State Fiscal Transparency and Accountability project of the World Bank, which is to look at all the states of the Federation and how their financial systems are. And you then see, and this is also coming from my profile when I was in government. I served for 8 years. And throughout, and our governor, was tried in court for 11 years. All the financial issues around the charges at the FCC was struck out. And it was a function of what we did. And I was not involved in it at all. At the end of the day, the case was thrown out. But so the profile, we did 10 years account of the state. So in terms of financial management, there. The other thing that has not come for people like us who have been in government, in order to foster economic development, how do we source money? We found out now that with digital technology, there are new ways of funding projects now. One of the ones I want to, and I'm going to share it here, one of the ones we're exploring seriously is tokenization. 2 good profiles for your project and crowdsourcing tokenization. And if you can check it, you can see that it's becoming an interesting aspect of sourcing funding that addresses that. And so what we need to do is to identify key strategic projects we want to run, do strong profiles for them, back up at the capability of some of us that are there and some of the people that we can also attract even over there. Then you can see that you can create enticing projects that people will like to invest. The second thing then is in IGR. The IGR level we have now is, though if people think it's better, but it's less than optimal. It's better when you compare, because what we have seen is that people are just addressing the gaps that are in the system. They're not exploring creative ways of raising money. And I mentioned earlier that one of the key things that we like to is to do a comprehensive identification of the people in our state. Such that we can bring them in partners. A lot of people are taxes, and a lot of people are really out of tax. They cannot be identified because their economic profile are not known. It's not that we're going to say we will increase their tax burden, but at least they should be able to pay something. And the identification system will be able to address quite a lot of that because we will know you, we know where you live, and we'll probably know what to do. So that if I'm not even doing enough, we then have what we call, because there are some issues about taxes, our revenue generation. The economic base of the country defines the tax base. So if the economy or a state, so if you don't have a robust tax economic base, you cannot have a strong tax collection or revenue collection base. And what we have defined is that we have identified 6 areas that will boost the economy of our state. It is almost immediately. One is construction, the other one is sports, another one is entertainment, then agriculture, technology and services. We want to make sure that in the value chain of that, we seriously engage our people to see the opportunities in each of these areas. And any one of those areas has a very huge potential to improve the economy and the economic base of the state. And from there, you can then go into to generate revenue from them. So in terms of also the creativity, we want to make sure that we apply technology as much as possible. What people have been doing now is what they call apply technology differentially. Oh, they think land is a good area. They apply technology for land. You see, tax itself is a good area. But across the board, a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of revenue can be generated if you have a robust and cohesive digital transformation model. Right now, I can't see it happening in the state. And I think with the kind of expertise that we can attract, both locally and internationally, we can build a state that generates, even for the government processes itself, for you to process a license, you see how many steps it's for. And if you can do it at the convenience of the home and you can attach some charges to it, you will find out that a lot of revenue can be generated. So you don't need, for example, a lot of us may be interested in acquiring property and you need to know somebody somewhere who will connect to somebody. Some of these things we can do for over there. So we need to create a robust transaction portal for most of the government services. Not that anywhere you are in the world, you can generate significant, you can process your government services, and that can also be a window for generating significant revenue from the state. So I think these are some of the areas I'm talking about. One, on the financing, look at new creative options, things that people have not done before. And we're looking at leveraging on digital the economy to expand the economic base so that there are new areas that we can actively promote and make sure that people are engaged along the value chains of those areas. And 3, make sure that you use technology as much as possible in the revenue generation process and the process of government itself, so that you can add value.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Sogunle. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you for providing the answers to those questions. I have one more question here. Any other person has a question before I read this one out? Because the one here, I do need to refine it. I need to add a little bit of my own personal touch to it for you to be able to answer it. So any other person, do you have a question? Can you just indicate by raising your hand, or at least you can just unmute yourself and say so. Do you have a question? All right, in the interest of time. So I have a question here, and the question reads, can you give us 2 tasks that we can hold you to that you will complete within Ogun State during your tenure, if elected? And I'm going to fine-tune that. So remember that at the beginning, I mentioned that we do hope to someday have the access to be able to engage with the governments of the day, because we're talking about governments at every level, right? So for us to be able to chip in whatever way that we can help the country to move forward. So this question now, for example, some of the answers you gave just now about your policies and what you plan to do in implementing them. For us here, and I'm sure maybe for some other groups in the diaspora as well, we would like access to be able to check in with you every step of the way and say, remember you said this, remember you said you would have these policies, remember you said you would implement X, Y, Z. Let's check on you to see how far you have gone with those policies. So in answering this question, I would like you to also answer the question that would we, Nigerians for Progressive Reforms, and maybe some other groups in the diaspora have access to you when you get into office, should you make it?
First, last question first. You will definitely have. I like the goal project I'm talking about, global Ogun agenda linkage, we create that kind of, even right from now, we're looking at developing relationships so that we can build some policies together. So definitely, I can assure you, we have access. These two projects that you're talking about, one is lighting up Ogun State. I have with
Lighting up Ogun State. Lighting up Ogun State. Okay.
For Ogun State, because with that drives a lot of things around the economy and all of that. Lighting up Ogun State, I can tell you that can happen. We need to.
Is that IPP? I'm sorry, is that IPP? Do you intend to engage with IPP, or I mean, how are you going to do this without?
We need to be modular power systems. We need to find a way of decoupling ourselves from this national grid.
National grid, okay.
So decoupling ourselves from it so that we can have modular stations there and there, and that will necessarily involve IPPs and things like that. We have a strong relationship with the power. Some power experts around who have said, look, one key thing that can drive most states to provide access to affordable, sustainable power. That's one. The second one is to free up Ogun State. Despite the fact that Ogun State is close to every place, to go to Lagos alone, we find that we are also locked in a way. Most roads leading to Lagos are very tight, and the federal government is in charge of interstate roads. Going to Lagos, going to Ibadan, and it's not just free. So one of the major things, we're thinking big area of this is that we want to rail up Ogun State, take Shagamu interchange as a major hub, and from there, as a major hub and a rail terminal, and from there, rail moves intra-city rail now. This is not that intra-city rail moves from Shagamu to Baga, Shagamu to Ilaro, Shagamu to Abeokuta, Shagamu to Ibadan. We see that Ogun State opened up significantly. Opportunities for property development, opportunity for rapid economic development, and in all aspects of the state. And we think that these are critical things that will be the focal points of what we need to do to make sure that we lift Ogun State up to the committee of states that actually the right level of the committee of states that actually belongs. It's supposed to be gateway, but today we're all clawed back around Abeokuta, and then without any connection. The third one I would like to mention is to make sure that our border towns, particularly where I'm coming from now, we call it development pressure areas, are actually refined to align with the Lagos, for example. A lot of our towns around the border towns, particularly with Lagos, from Ifo, from Agbara to Waterside, are like, we're looking like the backside, like the dustbin of Lagos. We need to make sure that to even improve the profile and thinking of our people, that Ogun State can be like a New Jersey to New York, not necessarily the other town, that the other neighborhood, but also
I'm sorry that I have to interrupt you there real quickly. So what about the issue of insecurity? Because I know with all of these things you've talked about, since if you do not have the basic thing, which is security for everybody to be able to operate without fear of attacks from unknown gunmen, from herdsmen and all that, how are you intending to address that?
Build is security. And I told you that security will utilize technology as much as possible. But the driver for it is robust identity management for people and assets, so that everybody in the state, everybody that enters that state will be in the state to be identified. And if you enter the state and you are not identified, we know who you are. With that, and then backed it up with an asset identity.
Yeah, but the borders are porous, though. I'm sorry, the borders are porous. How are you going to be able to determine? Yes, go ahead, please.
You will be able to determine. And we're working with some forestry experts around even tagging the forest and even the border. Okay. Yeah, you're tagging them at the forest and the forest so that you can really know human and vehicular movements at the borders. All of these are not going to be done by. We're going to, like I said, I did quite some work on technology, and I have a lot of technology partners that we can work with. And they've already been doing discussion on how can we address comprehensively this security issue. But I think technology is the key. Security intelligence is the key, and then we can then support with the operating security agencies.
Yeah, I like that answer. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so I do have a couple of questions here as well, real quickly. Someone seems to be calling my attention to the fact that they were not too sure if you answered the question regarding the government owning a cargo airport instead of private sector. I think, let me read the question properly. They said,
The
it
economic
did not
aspect.
answer- yes, it did not answer that of government owning a cargo airport instead to private sector.
Oh, the state government cannot own a cargo airport. I was part of the policy formulation and design of the agro cargo airport at Iperu, and Iperu, so to speak. And it's not government. The design was not for government to own it. It was supposed to be a partnership, with some investors. So government was not owning it. The government was just supposed to do initial pre-work and licensing, and then we get a major partner to participate in it. I think I was in Amsterdam or something like that. It was in one country where we were actually discussing with partners. So the whole idea was misinterpreted. It's not government owning the cargo airport. It's supposed to be a private sector driven, but with public involvement.
Okay, let me ask you real quick. So do you have, because we have actually come to the top of the hour, do you have like 10, 15 more minutes? Because it seems like you're a very popular guest here, and people still have a lot of questions. I guess they like the delivery of your messages. So do you have a little bit more time to answer this question, or should we end it now?
No problem.
Okay, so I'm gonna call Dr. our very own KAS, Dr. Shomoye, please. Dr. Drogeri, please be on standby. And also, I think Mr. Lukoyi also be on standby. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Doc. Thank you to our host, Mr. Adequejo. You are doing an excellent job. Thank you, Dr. Honorable Sogunle, for honoring our invitation. This is Barrister Shomoye. I have quite a few questions for you, or some issues I want to touch. You may not be able to touch all of them. You can just answer the ones that you remember. One, how confident are you or the Labour Party in capturing federal and state offices in Ogun State? One question. Second question, are you going to engage diaspora professionals in your government, probably employ them or employ them as consultants? Because we seem to have a lot of experience in how a society is supposed to function. So are you going to engage diasporans? Third question, the Constitution of Nigeria, imposed by the military, do you think that a referendum is necessary to legalize that constitution, which actually has turned Nigeria upside down? Third question, on ethics, do you believe in ethics in government? Should government be awarding contracts to their friends and families and dipping money into state funds and spending it like their own money? Another one, on funding of candidates for election and the big parties and their 20 billion nomination forms. Should there be national law to eradicate that and give equal opportunity to regular Joes like us that don't have 50 million to put them for nomination forms? And then and I'll try to stop on this issue. And I will use the word local politics, where people from a certain area, like Egba, we see now is our turn to be governor. Yewa says it's our turn to be governor. Ijebu says it's our turn to be governor. Should we really be? Should we concentrate on competence rather than local or is our turn politics? And lastly, I want to ask one thing to this. Should states allow candidates who are living in Lagos? For example, most of the Western states in Nigeria, their governors came from Lagos. And when they are sworn in, they end up awarding most of the contracts to their friends in Lagos, and they end up appointing a lot of their commissioners and top appointees from Lagos. Should people who do not live in a certain state, just because they have a lineage from that state, should they be allowed to come and contest election in a state they do not reside in? Sorry for all those issues.
Yeah,
Thank you.
those are 7 questions in all. So, Honorable Sogunle, what I'm going to suggest is just summarize. I don't think we should take them one at a time because I can't even remember them all. So just give us a summary of an answer to all those questions together. Please, go ahead. Honorable Sogunle, go ahead, please. You're not speaking. I tell, okay, I'm going to mute. Some people are having a background discussion. Oh my God.
Everybody.
Oh,
We have a very good.
sorry about that. Yeah, I muted them.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, yeah, please.
At the national level, there's a wave of change that's blowing in Nigeria now. And we are very confident that that wave of change is an advantage, particularly when you recognize you are very much identified with the youth population between the ages of 18 and 40 that constitutes 75% of the population. And our message, our profile, and our personality aligns to that population. And our strategy is also very closely aligned to them. So when will these people deploy, because of our engagement, we see that the confidence is there for us to win. Definitely, I mentioned it, diaspora professionals are going to involve, not just engage, involve them, even right from this thing. I mentioned this program we call GOAL, Greater Gender Link. What that means is that wherever you have an state.
Honorable Sogunle, I'm sorry, could you move the phone closer to your mouth? There's a lot of static and we can hardly hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I said diaspora involvement. I'm not talking about but because it's the same state, we all belong to this state wherever we are, and we have this program, and I've mentioned it almost twice or thrice now. The Greater Ogun Agenda Linkage. That program, right from now, will solicit for the participation of Ogun State indigenes or residents in the diaspora, and we even try to build up a database now. We can share it to you when you like, a database of Ogun State professionals and the experts, so that we can always, because we know the capacities we need to develop our state to the levels that we anticipate are not just resident here. They can also be resident in the state anywhere they are. And I know how much influence and impact they can have in the state. Referendum that's a national question. That is necessary. The constitution we're running now is not fair. It's not the constitution of the people. And at any point in time, some of us will push, or if we can, through our representatives to the National Assembly, to call for a people-driven constitution. On the ethics in government, I believe strongly in that. I'm an advocate of it. I shun corruption and I believe in transparency and accountability. So, and I can say that I'm a person of integrity, and I always want to show that in public, both public and private life. In terms of people coming from other areas, but one of the reasons why we decided to use to work with the Labour Party is because of the ease of entry in terms of nomination fees, in terms of the egalitarian participation that it has. Labour Party is the only organic party we have today. Looking at the constituents of the party, Trade Union Congress, NLC, the Nigerian, the NCF, and the Labour Party that we are using. And it's one of the parties that I can say is going to be sustained by popular participation, because it's a party of workers, a party of the working class, a party of young people, and everybody's identifying with that. So those issues around what we see in the traditional parties that have captured the state and using it to perpetuate themselves, you will not find that significant in the Labour Party. And like we said, we're building a party immediately after this moment that we know we accept all, and we make sure that it builds the capacity of its members for effective governance. In terms of this tribal identification about Egba, I don't believe in that. I believe competence is the key. For some statements may be there. It does not mean that when an Egba becomes the governor, he will do more for Egba than any other place. What to be interesting for us is for us to think of the state. Ogun State is not bigger than New York. So what is it that about fostering the state into clusters that that are not too far. 1 hour everywhere you are there. So it's not thinking that we need to think that it must be somebody, one tribe or the other that should be there. We believe in equity, we believe in capability and competence. And once that can be shown, and we have the interest of the state at heart, then we are all welcome. The other was about people coming from other, particularly who have people from abroad or even and people from Lagos to come and govern the state. What we have seen, I've been here for 20 years. What I've seen is that Ogun State belongs to all, whether you are here or not, whether in Abeokuta or not, whether in Ijebu-Ode or not. And where you are can get the state or the country, everywhere is looking for the best talent. When the best talent now feels he wants to come to serve Ogun State, he must serve the state. But what we need to have is to have active citizens who begin to demand from those who are governing, wherever they come from, since they are indigenous of the state or they are residents of the state, to demand from them performance that is related to their own development. And people must be asking them questions. What are you doing? What are you bringing to the table? And I think if we have those, and that we have not seen enough of, because what people just come, spread some little cash around, and people run after them because of their economic level. But as the kind of awareness we are seeing now is beginning to rise, the diaspora community is getting so interested. I encourage them to do a lot more like that. Even out of government, some of us have actually participated in advocacy groups that is demanding performance for government, irrespective of where you come from. So this era of this process of people just coming from anywhere. The point is that people with significant exposure in knowledge, experience, would definitely want to dominate a particular any that they get it, and even economy. So we welcome them, but they must work for the interest of Ogun State. And it also takes active citizens to make that happen. I think I've tried to answer those several.
Oh yeah, you've done fantastically well. Yeah, I'm very impressed with the way you actually did a summary of answer to all those questions together. Okay, so right now I'm going to call on Dr. Droja. He has a follow-up question, and after that, then I'll call on Mr. I'm sorry if I'm not properly addressing you. I'm still trying to settle back down. I just returned from my trip yesterday, so apologies. I'm going to call on Mr. Lokoyi after that. So Dr. Droja, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Sogunle, I have a follow-up question. When you were asked to tell us what programs or 2 programs we can hold you onto, you mentioned Light Up Ogun State, and you were talking about power generation for the state. That's a fantastic program. But I just want to remind you that, and you were talking about the national grid, getting off the national grid. But power generation is in the exclusive list of our constitution. And in that sense, you might probably run into a legal issue when you are trying to get the state off the grid. How do you want to navigate that vis-a-vis the fact that our constitution does not allow that, and you'll be able to still pursue your program?
Thank you, Dr. Droja. That's a fantastic observation. Thank you for that. Yeah, so let's allow our guests to answer that question.
The dependence on the national grid. The licenses have been given to independent operators particularly to states to generate a modular power. It's not that we are not exploiting it enough. So it's not straightly getting out, but if you are able to generate power in clusters or through modular means, through IPPs, which the state also has a license for, then you will reduce the dependence on the national grid. I'm not saying getting enough. I know somebody saying that constitution is legal. I know that's exclusive. That up to a particular limit of power generation, you can still do some things in the state. It's when it goes beyond a particular limit. That's when, yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much. Just, do I allow to just say one thing?
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead.
Yes, as we are going on with this program, I'm receiving many text messages from Nigeria, and people are still independent. They've not made up their mind where to go in this election. What message would you like me to tell them regarding your candidacy?
Yes, so hold on, Dr. Droja. So Honorable Sogunle, I think you should make that your roundup speech, okay? so that you can just tell all of us what to say to people, independent-minded people, people that are still neutral, what to tell them about you to sway them to your side. So do you want to keep that aside for now, or you want to answer it? Because I have another question I would like to do right now.
Round up.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so Mr. Lukoyi, please go ahead, ask a question.
Oh yeah, thank you, Mr. Adekweju. Yeah. Mr. Sogunle, thank you so much. So hopefully you understand that for those in diaspora, one of the problems we have going back home is we're not sure if we're secure when we get back home. And one of such areas is like we can't even sleep in our own homes. At times when we have houses, area boys are all over the place troubling us. So we find that it's difficult for most people to get C of O when they construct their houses in Nigeria. And at times they have to wait for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. So my question to you, Mr. Sogunle, is, do you know why it's taking the government so long to sign a C of O? And if you do, are you going to make any effort, if you win, that the CEO doesn't stay on your desk for too long before it's time?
Right, yeah, thank you, Mr. Lukoyi. All right, yeah.
Well, thank you. One thing that has not been comprehensively designed, particularly in Ogun State, is to begin to create communities that are livable, that belong to a particular class of people. This is what Lagos State has done very well. And so a lot of people go into independence and personal development. One of those things we want to encourage is to begin to create communities that are defined in terms of housing estates. I don't think you have had a government-developed housing estate that is functional in the states. Not necessarily, you will still develop. They can give you global CFO, and then you can get something from there. But a lot of our people just build everywhere where they can get land, and then you see the whole corruption system around CFO is there. I know some efforts have been done about it now, but I'm somebody that actually does not even condone corruption at all. So as much as possible, we will make that. It will make it quite possible, even from where you are, to be able to process your document, because the sales also is just about documentation and the documentation of title. And I'm giving the discussion already. I mentioned tokenization of projects before. You can also do land tokenization, such that you can identify your plot anywhere you are, and you can see whether the title is correct, and then you can begin to process it with a very robust portal. That may take some time, but I think we will start almost immediately, so that this particular constraint of people. But that does not take away the fact that we will encourage the development of estates that some of us can find for our quality of life that we expect to when we get back to the country. So those are the around those are the issues that I can see has to be done. But as much as possible, with technology, a lot of issues around CFO will be. I remember when I was coming, we actually decided it. We actually tried to make designing, but you know, our people, our civil servants, want to wait to create a plug in the middle of progress. But I think this is also there is one area. A lot of programs have been put in place to address this, and it has not been that successful. But we want to tackle this. We are not going to get to the ground and start learning what has to be done. We already know what the challenges are, and we can see how we can tackle them.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Sogunle. I must say that you are a very impressive candidate. I mean, if not for the fact that I'm fully aware of everything going on here, I would have thought that somebody gave you some of these questions ahead of time, because you seemed really prepared. Always, having your answers ready and all that. That's really impressive. So I do wish you all the best in your effort in becoming the governor of that state. So right now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to, we've gone way past time, and that's just, paying credence to the fact that, we kind of enjoyed, I have enjoyed this interaction session with you. Interactive session, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna give you a few moments to now give your final speech on the whole thing, like the question Dr. Jai asked before. We have a lot of people back home reaching out and not too sure about who to vote for. So what do we individually say to our people about you? How do you want to sell yourself to them? So just, and I would like you to, again, I'm sorry that we're going back to that, to touch briefly, I mean, in your speech on this constitution, because this, we think, is the biggest problem we have. I think without addressing this constitution, remember what Dr. Trojaye reminded of just now, that power generation is in the purview of the federal government, and you can't touch it, or you can only touch it to a certain degree, which that certain degree is not going to be enough to serve the purpose. It's not going to be able to serve the poster. You can only do bits and pieces here and there. So, in your summary, I would like for you to just, touch on that briefly as well. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think I'll touch that first. The issue of the constitution is a legislative issue, and I think we have even in our team very experienced candidates for legislature. We have one in the Senate, Ogun Central Senatorial District, Engineer Abayomi Collins, who's a two-time member of the House of Reps. He's going for Senate now, and he probably knows those around the constitution. But as far as possible for us, because I would believe that this constitution is not fair on Nigerians, I will push as much as possible, particularly through our legislature, to do whatever it takes to review that constitution or to actually create a new constitution altogether. The people have been making lip service to it, but I think the government of Peter Obi will do something drastic about that. That's why some of the regional groups are actually supporting that, so that we can create a very egalitarian constitution that works for all. So that's on the constitution. I would like to say to everybody, particularly to people at home and everywhere, that this is the best time for Ogun State to use the best of their people. We, in ourselves, particularly myself and the deputy governorship candidate, Dr. Mrs. Aishat Keshiro, we have within us combined experience and exposure in governance. She worked in the local government system and retired as the head of local government. She had probably worked in all the local government areas. She's a medical doctor and a community health expert. And she got to and a very brilliant and astute administrator. So in terms of connection to the community and local government, we have the deputy governorship candidate there. And here you have people like us, experienced in government with a lot of integrity, with a lot of exposure, and the combination is quite good. And we are attracting quite a lot of very good people. So this is not this is the best time you can have for a good government of those who know the ropes to actually govern Ogun State. And the ideas we have and the projects we have are bold, hairy, audacious, and connected to the economic and social development of the people. We're not there to flatter our egos. We are here to serve with dignity and integrity. And the best bet for anyone in Ogun State today and anyone that's elected in Ogun State is to vote for our winning team, the combination of Anthony Kehinde Sogunle and Dr. Mrs. Aishat Keshiro. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. I would like to add that Dr. Mrs. Kehinde, I'm sorry, Dr. Mrs. Aishat Keshiro is actually with us today. Would you like to quickly say something before we give the vote of thanks?
Okay, I would like her to say something. Dr.
At least even if it's just a brief introduction of yourself. Let's get to know you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hello. Go ahead, please.
Hi, we can hear.
How you doing?
Yeah. I'm Dr. Mrs. Aishat Keshiro. I am a community physician, and I attended the University of Ibadan for my first degree MBBS. Thereafter, I went for my MPH there too. Then I proceeded to the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, ASCON, for my program on public health, postgraduate studies on public administration. And all my life, I've served in the local government in the 3 senatorial districts of Ogun State. And I rose from the rank of medical officer up to the chief medical officer of health. and also to become the head of local government administration. And I served as head of local government administration in all the 3 senatorial districts. Indeed, myself and His Excellency, Comrade Kehinde Sogunle, we are a good team to manage Ogun State. We are presenting ourselves. We have the integrity and we have the capability to take Ogun State to the next level. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and apologies for not acknowledging your presence early enough. I wasn't aware. It was only when you mentioned that I realized that we had someone of that name here. Apologies, please, madam.
Apology accepted. Thank you. Yes,
all right, no problem. Thanks, man. So, Dr. Drew Jay, I'm going to call on you to give a vote of thanks now. I think, yeah, we should be disciplined enough to wrap it off now. We're almost like half an hour over time. So, Dr. Drew Jay, please, vote of thanks.
Oh, okay, thank you. Honorable Sogunle, we want to really thank you for your time. I know you are in a very busy schedule now, and you were generous enough to give us your time. And I want to also wish you and your deputy the very best. And I want to also tell you that when you win this election, don't forget the promises you made to the Ogun State people. We are looking forward to the kind of leadership that we will be proud of. And we will also convey your message of Ogun State, because many of us are from Ogun State and we have friends and families in Ogun State. We will chip in what we've heard today so that your message can also resonate to other people. So once again, thank you and your deputy doctor for your time. And we wish you the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have it. With that, we have come to the end of this program. Thanks again for honoring our invitation. We do wish you all the best as a group collectively. And as Dr. Drew Jay said, we'll make sure we pass on the message to our people back home, at least for them to hear you out themselves, and then make that decision on who they want to line up behind. I do believe you have expressed enough to give me the confidence that you do know what you're doing and you will be a good governor. So hopefully we'll be talking to you some other, because the intention for us in this group is to actually keep this going. This is not just about elections. We may still maybe bring in a couple more people, but the intention is even post-election period, this is going to be a constant thing that we'll always try to engage with politicians back home to see the way forward, how we can just address some of these humongous issues we have and try to start addressing them so that we can have a semblance of a sane society eventually. That's the goal. That is the goal. So thanks again. Hopefully next time we talk, it will be to you as the governor of Ogun State. So thanks everyone for your presence here today. We have come to the end of the session. I'll talk to you all later. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a nice time.